Alright, am I live? This is cool. So, I haven't done live streaming in a very long time. Don't really know how it's gonna work. Um, I got a new camera. See my cool turntable here. Um, I'm gonna do some more videos on like just the ins and outs of disc dyeing, just all kinds of stuff. I'm gonna talk about like mixing dyes and just techniques to clean and prep discs, stamp removal, all kinds of basics and stuff. But then I'm also going to go over like different techniques. I'm going to do some spin dyeing tonight just because I'm just bored and playing around. I got this Founders AJ Carey Brazos, Lone Star Disc Brazos that I've thrown maybe 3 or 4 times, but otherwise it's just been kind of sitting on my shelf and I haven't been bagging it. I decided I need something kind of in between that kind of straight neutral fairway and my really overstable, like my Felon Firebird slot. This is kind of in between. So I'm going to dye it so I can add it to my bag. Plus, it was just a good one to dye. We're going to play around with a technique I like to do, like off-center spin dyeing. So first thing I'm going to do is center this thing up and we'll get like an outer ring. And my goal is to do something where it actually kind of circles this little stamp and we don't mess with that stamp or anything, but then I got like a cool little off-center thing. I'll kind of show you an example of what I'm going for. I've got one in my bag already. I'm going to go for something that looks something like that, right? So whenever it spins, see if I can get it here, you got this weird kind of wobble to it. I'm not very good at understanding this camera, am I? Okay, but anyway, it's gonna be something like that. So let's get some dyes out and start having fun with this. By the way, I've already like one of the first things you need to do when you dye a disc. I'll talk about this more when I do an actual video on this, but you want to make sure that you uh, wash it to remove any. A lot of times the factory when they're molding these things and they put like a release agent on them that helps them get it out of the, the metal plate, the mold plate, easier. So it doesn't the melted plastic doesn't stick to the metal plate. So it's like a film that's on it, and if that film's on there, then it won't take the dye. That film will just block the dye from contacting the surface of the plastic, and you won't get a dye. So I've already washed it. It's real simple. I just use like a Mr. Clean Magic Eraser, and I just kind of run it over some warm water and just scrub it for a little while. You don't have to go crazy on it. If you scrub it enough, you can. I've heard that you can remove a stamp with Magic Eraser, but I went over that stamp and I didn't damage it. I've never been able to remove a stamp with a Magic Eraser, but I've heard that, so just throwing it out there. Be careful to not actually scrub your stamp off, right? I've never done it. I remove stamps with acetone, so that'll be for another video. But anyway, let's play around with this thing, put some color on it. Um, what I'm gonna do is kind of the same thing you saw there. I'm gonna do some fades, kind of fade like a do like a thick band, and on the outside it'll be a little bit darker, and it'll kind of fade to almost like a neonish finish in the middle. Um, that outside band, I think I'm gonna start with red. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get like 3 colors. I'm gonna get blood red for my primary red. These are already pre-mixed. These are acetone mixes. This is Pro Chemical and Dye. Color is called blood red mixed with acetone. Again, I'll do a dye mixing one at some point. Kind of give you the walkthrough on how to mix these colors. Also gonna grab my Worm Dip, Quick Coat Worm Dip pink. I'm gonna grab, and this kind of sounds kind of weird, but I'm telling you it works good for the effect that I'm going for. This is Pro Chemical and Dye. The color is chocolate, so this is like a chocolate brown. It's not gonna maybe use it very sparingly. Um, don't need it yet, but I'm gonna go ahead and get my trusty black out. This is iDye Poly Black. This is the only black that I use. There's lots of other people that use like Onyx or Dark Dungeon, and there's a couple other different ones that people use. I just swear by iDiePoly Black. It's the blackest black dye out there. It's the only one I like to use. I do have like I've tried with the same this Quick Coat Worm Dip makes a black also. I do not like that stuff. I played around with it. It just doesn't really take very well. It takes so many coats to get it dark, and I just want to mess with it. But I do like Quick Coat Worm Dip for their neon colors. Like I really like the chartreuse, which is like yellow, the green, which is what's it called? I'm trying to look for the color it actually calls it on here. Where's your color name at? UV green, yeah. And then like the yellow is this just says UV yellow. I think sometimes they call it chartreuse also. Good stuff though. Really bright, really pops. And then UV hot pink works great too. If you don't want to do that, another ones that I often use too. These are Pro Chemical and Dye. This is Neon Lemon Zest, and this is Neon Cerise Pink. Also really bright, really neon colors. Um, these neon colors are cool not just because they're like bright on their own, but they react to UV blacklight flashlights. So if you're trying to find a disc and it's kind of dark, even if you're not playing at night or something, if you just like throw it into kind of like a shady area and you're not seeing it, if you got a little black light, you can like a flashlight you carry around with you and you kind of shine it on something that's got that dye on it, it just really pop and you'll be able to find it quicker. It's the reason I started dyeing discs in the first place, just to make them stand out. Alright, I've talked enough. Let's dye some discs, right? Okay, turn on my turntable here. The way I center this thing is pretty simple. I just get it spinning. It's spinning. And then take my little handy dandy Sharpie here and just get her lined up. That's it. Alright. Um, for what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna be using Q-tips. I got like regular Q-tips, just regular ones, right? But a lot of times when I'm doing finer detail stuff, I like to use these. I got these other Q-tips here, and they got like a point on them. Really good for if you want to do a thin line. Paintbrushes work great too. I do use paintbrushes too. Um, I probably will do that on the thin outside line. So I'm actually going to start with that now that we're mentioning it. It looks like that one's pretty clean. It's a brush I haven't used. Got all kinds of supplies over here. Some of them you can see, some of them you can't. Alright, I'm going to start with this chocolate brown. Okay, you'll see why. You're like, why are you using brown? You said it's going to be red. Trust me, it's going to look good. Alright, and determine how thick you want this band, and then you're just going to lay down that first piece of color. That's really thin. That brush is super thin, but it'll be alright. Now, you know, if you can see it on there, it's so thin. I do not have the steadiest hand when I do this, but that's why we're going to do like kind of do touch-ups at the end. So it's alright. You can kind of see it on there now. Okay, that's the outside band. I am going to use a Q-tip on the outer edge because when you use a brush on like the very outer edge, because it kind of hits that curvature on the outside, it'll kind of fan out, and then you'll end up it's hard. Okay, so I just use Q-tips on the outside edge because it's kind of a pain, and I'm actually going to go ahead and use like the thicker one, and it's because I'm going to get the kind of the edge of it and just get that very corner. Man, I've seen it all. The dude is dyeing his disc brown. Alright, actually gonna use this little thin one, little pointy Q-tip one. See if I can't thicken up that top band just a little bit, just because my other one got a little thicker. These, like, cause they got like your normal cotton balls that, or Q-tips that I use have like your traditional. These have like bamboo in the middle, and sometimes they absorb the dye a little too much into the Q-tip, and it just kind of makes things difficult. It's got like a really loud ding in my headset there. Like I got an email and it was like really loud. Kinda annoying, not gonna lie. Yeah, no. My wife and I were sitting there talking this evening, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do some disc dyeing, just something simple tonight, because you know I got on and I made that introductory video, and I realized that like I told everybody that we're gonna be making disc golf content, and then all I did was post like three of my sermons that I preached at our church, and as much as I want to combine the two things. I mean, I love Jesus. I made this channel, or kind of revamped what I was doing before so that I can, spread the word of God and how He's affected my life with other people out there. But at the same time, I promised y'all disc golf content, and I didn't give you any yet. So here's some disc golf content, or at least disc dying content, because that's kind of what I'm known for. Eventually, we'll get to some playing disc golf too, but I don't even know if you'll care about watching me play disc golf because I'm not that great, but I have fun, and that's what's important. Alright, now we're actually going to go with the red. Okay, now this is going to start making sense of why I did brown, because it blends with this blood red really good. It blends a little bit better and looks a little bit more natural than like the black does. The black works really good with blue though. I'm just going to put like a little band there, like right next to that brown. I'm going to try not to like touch the two bands on each side though, and you'll see why. I'll show you here in a second. Again, what I'm trying to do is kind of fade the two things together. It's actually a little bit easier for me to fade that very edge there than it is up here. And just, if you kind of touch that brown a little bit, you'll kind of see how they'll kind of blend together a little bit. Like I said, it worked really better, a lot better on the outside. But we're going to come back and kind of clean that up at the end. You'll see. Okay. Now we're going to grab the pink. Hopefully this turns out good. I haven't done this in a little while. I haven't been dyeing this much at all in a while. So closed down the business, and I just, after I was done fulfilling all my like custom orders, um, for those that don't know, I just recently got married, so I've been pretty busy with life. I haven't been dyeing discs so much lately, and that has been just fine by me. Been busy with the church, been busy with, getting married, obviously, but just living life together. Getting her like moved into my house and kind of getting used to living together and doing life together, and it's been really good. And disc dyeing's been put on the back burner. The last time I dyed discs is I dyed some discs for like my little bachelor. We went to Flying Armadillo in San Angelo, Texas. Um, I say San Angelo, San Marcos, Texas. Sorry about that. Sorry, Flying Armadillo, don't shoot me. Um, really cool little. I don't even know what you call it. I mean, it's pretty much the definition of pitch and putt, but it's not what y'all think. It's more like a putt putt style course. It's just you play the whole thing with your putter basically. They have a regular 18-hole course out there. Well, technically the par two, the pitch and putt course is also 18 holes, but then they have like a full regular traditional course, which is also a really nice course. Um, but we probably played that little course, man. I think we played like five, 4 or 5 rounds, something like that, with all of my buddies and everything that came down there to kind of celebrate the last weekend as a bachelor. Um, didn't do anything crazy. We just played disc golf. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it kind of what I'm trying to say here. Why am I bringing this up? See, this is why I don't do live streams very much. I just get scatterbrained, right? We're dying disc though. That's important part, right? All right. But yeah, sorry, that's what I was talking about. That was the last time I dyed discs. All the guys that went down there, they each got like a dyed Ninja Nuptials disc, right? And that's the last time I did anything Ninja disc golf related. I've kind of let that brand and everything die off. I still have all the stuff for it. I still got stickers and my stamp that I put on my discs and all that stuff too. But um, just try to let that chapter of my life go, uh, on to bigger and better things, in my opinion. So right now I'm using this is also worm dip, but this is just clear. It's called just UV blast. It's clear and it'll also have that UV reaction with the glow in the dark thing. This is really good for just using it to kind of do little fades, right? You can do the same thing as what you would do with just acetone or alcohol as far as you can kind of remove a little bit of dye, and that will kind of help give this the appearance of having that kind of neon glow in the center, but it'll also kind of just help fade this all together, right? I really need to get special kind of attention to this little outside edge where the red and the brown meet, cause kind of missed that the first time around. Sometimes this part takes me like several of these Q-tips because I don't want to dip anything that once the Q-tip has dye on it, because this will take dye off your disc. Once it has that on it, you don't really want to put it back in the bottle because then you'll be adding color to that clear dye, and you don't want to do that, right? Another really cool thing you can do with this UV blast dip is you can make hidden messages. Um, I like to do that like on the back side of a disc a lot of times that you can't even like see anything there, but if you take a black light to it, you can put some hidden words or hidden something like that. I have examples of that. I've done that several times, just either on the back side of the disc or sometimes I only did it once actually. I say sometimes. One time I did one where it was like this Chrono Trigger disc, and I used uh, I put a stencil down before I did any dye work and did like this Chrono Trigger logo thing in the background. Um, and then I did my dye over the top of that. So it just looks white background, whatever, behind it. But then if you take that UV light to it, you can see the video game's logo back behind it, behind Chrono, whatever his name is. Actually one of the earlier dies I did when I was getting into this. I did it years ago, but the guy I did it for really enjoyed it. My buddy Charles. Now I'm just kind of adding some more red because it didn't quite do what I wanted it to do there. So now that I've kind of darkened that up a little bit, I'll go one more time with this clear UV and do a little blend. Probably a little hard to see in that screen there, but looks pretty good. A nice little fade from darker outside and bright on the inside, which is what we're going for. Alright, now this is where the magic happens basically. Okay, so again what we're going for, yeah, I put that disc away. So what we're going for is we want to change our center point now. We want to create that off-center effect, right? So if when I did this original one, like that outside blue rim, that was where the center line was, right? That would have been like when it was centered up just like this one is. And then I just kind of shifted it, and then your center point's a little different, so that's when you get a smaller circle there. And then you shift it again. Um, if you keep shifting it the same way the whole time, you'll get what you call a tunneler, where it's just the same ring and the same, but it just kind of gets smaller. It looks like it's going like into a tunnel. This is why I call these like wobblers, because instead of like it going into a tunnel, it's just kind of like almost like, I don't know, clock, like cogs in a clock or something, where they're kind of turning each other or something. Sound right? Cool. Actually, I'm gonna do something real quick and make my little face on here a little smaller to give you a little bit more room to see this thing. There we go. As I said, I am still playing with the settings. I had all this stuff set up back in the day, but they updated like the Streamlabs software since last time I used it, and I had to kind of reset everything. Plus, I got a new camera. The camera that's on this is actually a brand new one. The webcam I had before could not get like this close to the action because it didn't have a zoom on it or anything. It was just like a cheap little webcam. I've actually got a camcorder that we bought that we're gonna play around with. Should be pretty fun to go out and do actual like disc golf, playing disc golf, doing rounds and stuff. All right, so I'm gonna move this thing now. And it's not real complicated here. We just kind of take it and move it. And then what I usually like to do is I take my little like dry Q-tip with nothing on it, start it back up again, and see how now it's off center, right? And I like to just get an idea for like where's that thing gonna go, right? Looks pretty good. First one's not even that complicated. It's when you start adding the third or fourth or whatever, however many rings you want to do, that's when it starts getting tricky. Okay, so we did a red one. I'm gonna do. You go with the inside one to be blue, so let's do a yellow one now. Yellow, I'm gonna do kind of the same thing. I'm also gonna do chocolate on the outside. Then I'm gonna go to. This is the color's dandelion. I don't have a whole lot in there, but I think I got enough to do what we're gonna do here. Mixing dyes will be one of our first videos I do, so we can kind of get up to date on that, but I need to do it anyway, right? And I'm going to grab my yellow worm dip. I only use Quick Coat worm dip because I know a good place to buy it from, like online. It's called Jan's Netcraft. You just search it on Jan's, Jann apostrophe S. This stuff is made for like dyeing fishing lures and stuff, right? So you gotta be careful when you're buying it. Make sure you don't buy the stuff that has a scent. It like smell like garlic or shrimp or something like that, and it's not like a little scent. Like it's really strong. You don't want your disc smelling like that stuff, and they will pick up the smell. So just make sure you get the unscented ones. And yeah, there's another brand that's out there that's pretty good too, and also other companies have started making these like pre-mix things just with dye. She's over there watching me. She's like, "Hey, dinner's ready." But we're dying a disc, so we'll get back to that in a minute. And hopefully I can kind of speed up the process here. Okay, I got dye on this, and this is the tricky part. Kind of line it up before you make contact, because once you make contact, you're committed. Ugh, barely see it. This is like the hardest part. And honestly, I might have to go Q-tip on this because I can barely even see my line that I'm laying down. So that's what we're gonna do here. I already got one out. What am I doing? And again, I'm just laying down brown again because it fades into the yellow pretty easily. This part right here could be really tricky on a really domey disc because it will, you'll get more pressure when it's on the high part than on the low part, and you'll have like a thicker line one area than you do in the other. I don't know what the solution is for that. I guess brushes will probably be a little bit more sensitive to that. So if you're worried about that, use a brush. And it's also real easy to kind of, I said this is, especially when it's domey, your line can get a little off right here. I think I'm just gonna leave it at that. I don't want this to be too dark. I don't want it to be as dark as it was on the red. It looks pretty dark in that thing, but it's not that dark, I promise. And the dandelion fades into it pretty good, so should be alright. Dandelion and blood red, like primary colors. You kind of after you play around with all the different colors, you're gonna have kind of favorites. My favorite red is blood red. My favorite yellow is dandelion for just like a basic yellow. The bright yellow I use the neon lemon zest or the worm dip a lot. Um, and then blue I like royal blue, which we'll get to that in a second too. But anyway, dandelion's kind of, it's a real basic yellow, but it's got kind of, it's almost like what you would think. It's like a dandelion. It's got kind of an earthy tone to it, so it blends into the brown pretty good. It says I have 2 viewers. Hello, viewers, if you're watching me. How's it going? We're spin dyeing this. Alright, I'll switch to my neon yellow worm dip now and hit the center of that. And also just kind of work to fade all these colors together. It's a little bit harder to see on this thing because it is a clear disc. Maybe it wasn't the best thing to use as my example for this. But again, it's like I said, I just a disc that I had that I wanted to put in my bag anyway. So I figured might as well use this as a kind of a dye tutorial thing. You notice like one of the things I always do is I always start on the outer edge of my darker color, because then when I come in with my lighter color, I can go right over all those darker colors and I don't have to like worry about, because you don't want to run your darker colors over your lighter colors, but you can run that darker one right over it and just kind of use that to kind of blend it all together without fear of it kind of overpowering, because I mean you would overpower if you did it the other way around, if that makes sense. Alright, it's looking pretty good. Now I'll do the same thing I did earlier and just use this clear UV blast worm dip. I dropped a viewer. They were like, I have no interest in watching this guy spin dye. All good. Appreciate y'all watching anyway. Okay. And on this one, I'm just gonna kind of run a little, just right down the center. I already did a pretty good job of blending it, it looks like. Oops, almost went back in there with that. As much as I wanted to when I was just going over it with that yellow. So I'm just trying to hopefully remove a little tiny sliver of that color. And then maybe just do a little blending with it. Kind of learning how to do these fades and blending the two colors together is something you have to practice. These honestly aren't my best fades. They're okay. Again, it's kind of hard to see this stuff on clear plastic in general anyway. Alright. So, unfortunately, I don't think I was paying enough attention to what I was doing, because I was gonna try to do like a wobbler, but it looks like it's gonna end up being like a tunneler situation, because if I want to circle this little stamp right here, I gotta keep kind of moving this same direction. So we're gonna make a tunneler instead of a wobbler. But that's okay, because I already got a wobbler in the bag. So I didn't have a tunneler in the bag. Alright, so again, if I wanted to do a wobbler, I'd send it back in the opposite direction that I moved it the last time, away from the center point. This time, since I'm doing a tunneler, I'm just going to keep moving it in the same direction. So we're just going to move it up again. And again, this is just kind of me eyeballing it. Then I'm going to grab a dry Q-tip or brush or whatever it is we want to do. Get it going, and then just see kind of where you land. Actually still a little bit bigger than I want it to do, because I'm only going to do 3 circles, so I'm gonna move this up a little bit more. Now they make like these jigs now that will make this so much easier. I do not have one of these jigs, but yeah, I think that'll work. Alright, so let's get colors out for that one. Alright, this time I will not be using brown. I don't even think I'm going to use black. I think I'm just going to go with Do a dark dungeon on the outside, which is like a really dark, like navy blue. It's almost black, but it's blue. Then I'm gonna do royal blue. And I've got another. This is the worm dip blue. This is a really light blue. Got another email thing. Now I got another viewer again. How's it going? We're dying dis. How's it going? Welcome to the channel. Like I was saying earlier, this is kind of a. I felt bad that I promised when I first started the channel, or restarted the channel, because this used to be the Ninja Disc Golf channel. Uh, I promised disc golf and ministry videos, and so far the only thing I put up there is just like 3 different sermons that I've done. Um, I did those at my church, of course, so they were also available on my church's YouTube channel. But I wanted to do something disc golf related, and this is kind of where my claim to fame is disc dying. So this is what I'm going to be kind of showing people how to do. This is kind of an informal video. I was testing my live stream capabilities, and later on I'll do more in-depth videos on the ins and outs of disc dying and things that you need to know just to get started, and just the basics and everything. That one was tough. That first line you put down is pretty tough. You gotta make sure you don't run into your other colors. Once you get it down, you can kind of like, oh, now I can see where I'm at. Okay, okay. But that first place in it, you're like, ugh. All right, so this is acetone mix, okay? All this dye is mixed with acetone. I don't want to go over my foil stamp because it will remove the stamp. So also I got to be real careful with this placement too. I wanted to get close to it, but I did not want to touch that stamp. All right, cool. All right, that's my outside ring. Blue goes on so much easier than yellow. It's nice, dark, easy covering. The joys of disc dyeing. I don't know if you can see that or not. I got dye on my fingers. Always make sure you wash this stuff really good. You don't want to get this stuff in your eyes. You don't want to get it in your mouth. Stuff is highly toxic. Don't mess around. I probably should be wearing gloves. Not the not the best example, I guess, right now, but I do have some gloves somewhere. It said it's been a while since I dyed discs on a regular basis. Usually it's not that bad, but when I'm using these bamboo Q-tips, it soaks through these really bad, so. Now I'm using that royal blue at this point. I really like working with blue because it's my favorite color, but also because it blends really easily. You can blend from this dark dungeon to the royal blue so much easier than the other colors, it seems like. And then after that I'll come in with that worm dip blue and it'll really pop. It's probably easier for me to do like that neon effect with blue than any other color. And again, where this one's at, I'm having some issues with that, with the dominess of it. Kind of, some strokes are longer than others because just the dome of the disc. You're off center, so it's kind of going ooh, ooh, ooh. So if that doesn't make sense, I'm sorry. Get you a Domi disc and try this for yourself, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Okay, blue's looking pretty good. Now we're gonna come in with the lighter, the quick dip quick coat worm dip blue. This is called UV blue quick coat. It's weird, like all the ones I've been reading, they're just like pretty basic. They're just like blue, yellow, green, pink. And I'm like, I know when I order them, they're not always that. Like the quick coat colors, that yellow I know is called chartreuse, but I don't see it called chartreuse on the label. But I know like when I order it, That's the color, that's the name of it. This one on this clear plastic is like so light you almost can't even see it. But it's gonna make that fade look really good. It's gonna fade it to that super light blue. The blue is the least UV reactive of these colors. Like the pink and the yellow like really pop under the black light. These like they're okay. They're not fantastic. The blue that is. But it does react to the blue or the black light, so that's cool. I love just doing anything with just your basic red, yellow, blue primary colors. They contrast each other really well. This always pops really well. Looks good. So always a good color combination to use. So don't want to mix them together because if you don't know your color theory, you mix all three primaries together, you get brown. So be careful when you mix them together. Just trying to get a kind of a thin line of the clear right in the middle. That'll help kind of add the neonness to that. Again, this is really hard to see on a clear disc. I think I'm going to call that good. Alright. But that's the effect, man. So now, take it off. I gotta be real careful not to touch the edges, and I also got a little dye on my fingers. The stuff on my fingers is probably already soaked into my skin, so it's not gonna transfer to the disc. But the stuff on the disc, you can still pull the dye off. You need to make sure you wash it really good. Definitely don't put it in your bag or anything, but let's see if we can get a little spin action on it. Kind of hard for me to do without, like I'm trying not to touch it. But tell you what, I'm gonna go wash it. We'll be right back. Did my mic shut off? Did my mic shut off? I think so. No, it's back on. Okay. So, um, just some information on when you wash this stuff. I like to just do the same thing. I just use a magic eraser. I'll use soap and water if I'm really worried about it, but again, I kind of keep like a dedicated magic eraser for this stuff. Yeah, it's gonna get dye on it, so you know, if you plan on using it for something else, then don't wash your dyed disc with it, right? It's okay if it's got no dye on it, right? So you're not gonna see like the release agent that you wash off, but um, that's basically it. But some terminology, and by the way, here's if you can see it better in that camera or not. Um, I kept using the word neon, the term neon. So there's like neon as far as the dye is neon, and it'll be UV reactive. And there's also, I was trying to say like making it look like neon. What I mean by that is like it kind of looks almost like a neon tube, like a light tube or something. Like it's a little darker on the edges and bright on the inside, right? That's kind of the effect I was going for. Again, you can see it better on this one just because it's a white disc and it colors pop on it a little bit more than that clear one does. You can see how the outer edges. But there you go. Tunneler, wobbler, off center, Disc Dyeing 101. Um, Real quick before I sign off, let me hit it with the black light and see if we got some neonness on there. If I can find my black light. Hmm. Ha! Both of my black lights are in the bag. Okay, it's gonna get dark for a second. See if I can. It is not letting me do that. What's going on? Well, I don't know how well you can see it, but it does pop the neon colors pretty well. Especially the yellow one. Red one kind of hits it. The blue one doesn't get much, but there's a little there. Alright, well, that was fun. Hope y'all had fun. Little Monday night boredom. Let's dye a disc stuff. And we'll do some more. We'll do more in depth and a little bit more focused because I think this thing ran for like 45 minutes and most of the time I'll just kind of hit the highlights of how to do these techniques and stuff, and you don't have to watch the entire thing and just listen to me ramble. But appreciate those that tuned in and watched this, and if you're watching it later on, appreciate you too. Have fun dyeing some discs on your own. Y'all take